Israel is seeking to ensure that women and children held hostage in Gaza are released. The country also hopes to work with global and regional partners to create a reality in which the Palestinian population in Gaza Strip has the power to govern itself, but not the capacity to threaten Israel and its citizens. Well, join me in the studio right now is Roey Gilad. He is ambassador, Israel's ambassador to Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Thank you so much for your time here on NewsDesk.
Thank you for having me, Faustina.
It feels great to have you here. I just wanted to start with a little bit of updates with the hostage situation currently between Israel and Gaza. How many hostages do we still have in Gaza?
So currently, after 250 people were abducted 502 days ago on the 7th October 23, we still have, as of today, 69 people that are taken hostage in Gaza. We had 73 until this morning. We got 4 bodies were returned this morning to Israel, which makes it a very somber day in Israel. We still have 69 people over there. Some of them are not with us anymore. Some of them we know that they are dead. At the end of this round of the ceasefire, we are expecting to get 10 more people. Part of them are alive, some of them are not alive anymore, unfortunately. So at the end of this round of the ceasefire, we'll be left with 59 people still, 59 Israelis still in Gaza.
How effective really has the ceasefire been? It started in January rather, 19th of January. And how effective has it been so far, based on your assessment?
Well, look, obviously, our hostages are cheap points for the Hamas to try to stay in power. You yourself said at the beginning that the whole idea here is that not only for Israel, but also for the Arab countries, Europe, United States, is to see the people of Gaza governing themselves without the Hamas. There are some ideas, plans to make sure that the people in Gaza, the 2 million people there, which are entitled for decent life, will be there, but without the Hamas. Hamas obviously don't want to go anywhere. They want to keep on ruling Gaza and threatening our people. And they use our hostages as a tool to continue to stay in Gaza. And basically they say, unless the ceasefire is going to be permanent, you're not going to see your hostages back, which puts us in a very difficult situation.
Will the ceasefire be permanent?
Well, we have 2 aims. We have 2 targets in this war. To release all our people, as I said, 250 have been abducted. Currently 69 are still there. But then also to put an end to the Hamas control of Gaza. It's quite clear that we cannot let those people live next to us, especially when they say that the 7th of October will repeat time and again. And as long as Israel is there, we are not willing for any Jewish sovereign entity live in a place where we believe it's a place for, it's a radical, it's an Muslim endowment. We'll try to make sure to achieve those 2 means, those 2 aims, releasing all our people and putting an end to the Hamas, to those terrorist control of Gaza. Obviously, Faustina, it is easier said than done.
So in the interim, we are looking at the ceasefire to be a temporal measure.
I think at the end of the day, the government knows that we have to, the priority is to release our people in Gaza. The price is very expensive. It's not only the ceasefire, it's also releasing thousands of terrorists from Israeli prisons. Some of them committed very severe crimes like assassinating people, raping women. And we have agreed to release those people to get our hostages back. I think getting the Israeli hostages back is a priority for us. Today we got 4 coffins. We don't know yet. The media is full with data. We are checking those bodies to make sure that indeed the bodies are of the 4 people that we were told that those are in the coffins. So in the next 48 hours, we'll know for sure. Either or, it's a very sad day in Israel. Every Israeli in Israel or in the diaspora feels today terrible. But for us, to answer your question, the first priority is to bring our people back, alive or dead, and we are willing to pay any price to do that.
And that price you're willing to pay, I know that you have been releasing some of the prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners. So far, how many have you released?
So far, we
expecting you to release?
So far, we released hundreds. I think overall the number, I don't have the exact number here, but I think the number will be huge. Unfortunately, in the past, we've seen that most of those released prisoners went back to involve themselves with terror. So it's a huge price that we are paying. Had we known that those people are willing to start or restart their life as peaceful people, it would have been one thing. But we know that unfortunately those people are going to re-engage in terror activity against Israel. Look, Faustina, there is a big debate in Israel about it. That has to be said. There are 2 basically school of thought. One is saying, as I'm saying here, that we have to pay any price to release the hostages. This is our responsibility as a state. They are our brothers and sisters. There is also a school of thought that say not every price, we should not be paying every price. We should not put an end to the war in Gaza. We should not release all those prisoners that murdered hundreds of Jews. I think currently the government understands that releasing the hostages is a priority, but I don't hide anything. There is a very strong debate in Israel. Israeli society is divided. It's not a good time for Israel, that has to be said, but I really believe, Faustina, that at the end of this crisis, and it is a crisis, we shall overcome it and will be much stronger than when we entered to this crisis 500 days ago.
A crisis, you describe it. How about many, given the proposal that Israel should consider running a 2-state solution to this problem between Gaza and Israel? Is that a viable solution?
Look, currently, in the long run, I think it's a very viable solution, but I'm talking about the long run. Currently, the main question is the day after Gaza, because it is us and Egypt and Jordan and the UAE and the Palestinian Authority and the United States and Europe who do not want to see Hamas anymore in Gaza. There is a wide consensus between all those parties, all those states I spoke about, that Hamas needs to evacuate Gaza. Gaza needs to be demilitarized and de-radicalized. There are some suggestions on the table how to do it. Obviously, you are aware of Trump's suggestion, which is one suggestion. I understand the Arab League is going to convene at the beginning of March and present another suggestion. But between the different suggestions, there is one thing which is in consensus, that Hamas should not be part of it anymore. Even the Arab League, which so far was the most extreme element in this conflict between us and the Palestinians, which is 100 years old, even they say very clearly to the Hamas people, the future of Gaza, the future of the Palestinian people is more important than the future of Hamas. So once we get rid of Hamas, once we demilitarize Gaza, once we de-radicalize Gaza, I think all the options are there.
But in the middle of all this, our lives, families being lost on both sides, both on the Palestinian side and on the Israeli side. Why not sign a peace treaty and let peace prevail?
Because when you build a bridge, let's take the Volta River. When you build a bridge on both sides of the Volta River, you need the bridge to be stable. You need both sides of the river to be stable so you can put the pillars of the bridge. You cannot put a bridge, you cannot build a bridge, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a huge conflict, and it needs and it deserves a bridge. And I think in the long run, as I told you before, Faustina, a bridge should and can be built, but it can be built only once the two banks of the river are stable to hold this bridge. In the past, we tried a few times to build a bridge when the two pillars, the two banks were not solid, were not stable, and the bridge fell apart. This was in 1993 when we had the Oslo agreements. And the end is always very bitter for both sides. We have to make sure that next time when we build the bridge, and again, personally, I believe this bridge is possible, it has to be safe, secure, stable, in order not to fall down again.
And what would it take to make this bridge safe?
Currently, mainly two things. De-radicalization on the other side, demilitarization. I believe those are the two preconditions in order to start building trust also in the Israeli side. Faustina, I'll be very, very clear with you. Currently, the trust on the Israeli side, trusting the other side, is very low following what happened on the 7th of October 23. That has to be said. The Israeli people now are concerned. They don't know if they can live next to the Palestinians in Gaza. We've just went through 500 days of nightmare when we were engaged in 7 fronts simultaneously. People are people. And you know, we can speak about peace and the two-state solution, but people are people. People are concerned. People are afraid. People will not be willing to live next to Gaza unless Hamas is not there, unless Gaza is demilitarized, and unless Gaza is de-radicalized. Once those three preconditions will take place, I believe we will be able to rebuild the trust. Without trust on both sides, there is very little we can do.
Wow. Let's look at the hostage release you're hoping to secure so far. You say there's still some individuals you're hoping to secure, about 66 of them, if my memory serves me right. With this final round of ceasefire, how long will it take? Are you hopeful you would receive all of them?
This round of the ceasefire will end within a week or two, where we expect another 10 people to be released. Some of them are alive, some of them unfortunately will come back in coffins. And this will leave us with the second phase of the ceasefire, where we hope to release the remaining 59. As I said, currently we have 69. 10 are going to be released in this round of ceasefire in phase A, and in phase B, if indeed we'll reach an agreement with the other side, the other 59 will be released. I don't want and I cannot preempt the talks. It's going to be very tough, but again, I think at the end of the day, as I told you before, Faustina, there are two lines of thought, but I think at the end of the day, the government understands that as much as the price is going to be dear and expensive, releasing our remaining hostages in Gaza is a priority.
What are some of the key demands Gaza is making when it comes to this whole release settlement?
Hamas would like to put, when you speak about Gaza, I assume you speak about Hamas. Yeah. Hamas would like to put an end to the war. Hamas would like to stay in Gaza. Hamas would like to keep on controlling Gaza. They would like to keep on threatening Israel.
Is that an option Israel is open to?
No, it's a non-option for us. It's a non-option for us. It's a non-option for Egypt. It's a non-option for Jordan. It's a non-option for UAE. Maybe it's an option for Qatar, but I think they are not relevant here. It's definitely not option for the United States, non-option for the EU. I hope also it's a non-option for Ghana, being a strong friend of Israel in Africa. Every peace-loving country in the world should object this option of terrorists controlling a state. You know, Ghana is facing a challenge in your northern border with Burkina Faso. And I follow this challenge. It's a serious one. But the border, the 600 kilometers of border between Ghana and Burkina Faso is very far from the centers, from Accra, from Kumasi. So the threat that you are facing, which I do not underestimate, doesn't come close to the threat that we are facing. The threat that we are facing is actually existential one. It's terrorists in Gaza, terrorists in Lebanon, we didn't speak about them, the Hezbollah, terrorists in the south and the north of Israel. And we have to be very careful in order to secure our existence as a sovereign state in Israel. And really, I call every state in Africa who's facing the challenge of terror, Ghana facing challenge of terror in its northern border, Somalia facing Al-Shabaab, Nigeria facing Boko Haram, Mozambique facing the challenge of terror in the north. Every African state which is facing the challenge of terror should understand what we are facing. And you know, unfortunately, the African Union summit just ended in Addis Ababa. The final declaration that was issued after the summit, unfortunately, did not reflect this feeling that we have, this attitude that we believe that every sovereign state needs to undermine the challenge of terror. We are doing it day in and day out. African states, not all of them, not all the 54, but many African states are doing it day in and day out as well. But when it comes to Israel, for some reason, it is different, and we believe it shouldn't be different. Terror is terror, and sovereign state is a sovereign state.
You've just made mention about Ghana's situation when it comes to terrorist attacks and how porous our borders are. How do you propose we deal with such issues coming from your wealth of experience?
Well, without getting into too many details, first of all, we suggested some help to the Ghanaian government, and we're willing to help. Again, I think first of all, you have a very strong and significant dialogue with the government of Burkina Faso. The leader, Captain Ibrahim, was here for the inauguration. I saw him. So it's a different situation because both the government of Ghana and the government of Burkina Faso are trying to bring down the terror. In our case, we do not have a partner. We do not have a partner. Obviously, Egypt is very unhappy with what's happening in Gaza, but Egypt do not control Gaza. If Egypt would have controlled Gaza, it would have been much better for us, but that's not the situation. So our challenge is bigger. Again, I think that between the government of Ghana and the government of Burkina Faso, with some help of some of your friends, United States, Europe, Israel, you can contain this challenge. Which I do not underestimate. But I think our challenge with terror is still more difficult, mainly because we do not have a partner.
Now, as we wrap up the conversation, we know that Israel's economy is also feeling the pinch of the war. As well as Ghana, we have new government now, and they're hoping to turn the fortunes of the economy because of the challenges we're facing. Most of them have attributed them to external factors. I know that with Israel, you benefit more from tourism, and that's already a challenge because many are wondering, is Israel a safe place to visit at this time? How do you hope to work with Ghana when it comes to the economy and trade and also tourism?
So, you know, only yesterday evening I hosted an event in the residence with a Ghanaian businessman in the field of telecommunication, This morning I sent a letter to the Director of Civil Aviation suggesting him a partnership in the field of drones, UAVs. I met your president 4 times in the last 2 months, twice on personal meetings, twice in the bigger meetings. We discussed some options. I met your vice president. We discussed agriculture. So between agriculture, telecommunication, high-tech, drones, you name it, I think there is a very wide options for partnership, for cooperation. You have a new government. I think this government is, in all the meetings I had with the president, he's saying that the government is open for business. He's talking about 24-hour strategy, economy of 24-hour strategy. We are on the same page. We appreciate our relationship with Ghana. This is the first embassy that Israel opened in Africa, actually in 1956, 1 year before you gained your independence from the British Empire. And since then, the relationships are stable, are strong, and we are open for business as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time here.